Howdys and salutations, y'all! Sorry about the wait on that, but we are live! Okay, so today I've actually got something a little different. I know we've been doing sort of the art tutorials and guides, but I've got a friend who's introduced me to a fun little thing called Art Fight. How to find that in chat. One of these days I'll, maybe theoretically have moderators and we can get that stuff posted, but for now I'm going to manually do it. No shame in that. Um, Let me just send y'all the link real quick. Basically, Art Fight is an excuse to have people draw your OCs and to make them and to show them off to people, and to also draw other people's. Mostly, it's a good excuse to get some art practice, but it's in the form of a fun competition, which helps with that ever-present challenge of motivation. So I think it'd be a fun thing. It's only through the end of the month, so we're jumping in kind of at the halfway-ish point right now. Yeah, pretty much, a little over it. But step one is before I can really do anything, is that I need to get some character sheets on there so people can see what my characters look like. Because otherwise, I can draw their characters, but then typically you want to do an exchange, they want to be able to do counterattacks and all of that jazz. It's a cool little concept. So today we're going to be doing some character sheets. I'm going to open this up real quick. Let me see if I can find actually my actual Art Fight profile in case anyone wants to see it. Really ought to make this like a bot command of some sort. That would be clever of me to do. But we're not quite that clever with these tools yet. So let's see if just Art Fight Siphimir is going to turn it up. Doop, 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 doop. Nope, not a bit. Ah, well. Okay. Well, the point is you go on Art Fight, you can find me. I'm under Siphimir on there, same as here. And we'll have a lot of fun. I'll get these posted with some blurbs. But the first thing we want to do are these character sheets, and I've got to give a shout out to, I believe it is ABD Illustrates on YouTube, for a fantastic little guide. They were remaking an old character that they had done as a kid, but they in the process of remaking it, they went through an excellent tutorial of some useful guides, some tips, how to make better character sheets, and all of that jazz. So I'm going to be following along with some of their guidance. We're gonna see how many we can get through today. I'll admit I'm like a little rusty on this still, and some of these are characters I haven't necessarily drawn super recently, so we will see how this goes. But yeah, here's hoping. So first off, I know I've talked on here a little bit. The forever rule first is, let me make this again. Please go away, bottom toolbar. I don't need you right now. Why are you here? I cannot press some of the buttons when you're here. Okay. Well, we will have to deal with that. You know what, actually, I'm going to deal with it now. Let's do Toolbar Settings. I don't mind showing y'all my... Oh, dagnabbit, not you, Bing. Nobody wants you. No, never. Go away. Come on. Toolbar. Am I a fool? Is that the thing I did before? Settings. Okay. I'm not going to share my email on this. We're just going to do System. Where the heckins are ya? Toolbar. Toolbar. You ain't got a toolbar? What is it you've got? I know it was on here. I edited this yesterday, which is probably why it's messed up. That is my own fault. But that's okie dokie. System displays. Where are you at? Where are you at? Seriously. Okay. It went away for a moment there. Why? I realize this is below the overlay, but basically the little start menu and all that jazz is being a pill and won't minimize. Um, start menu, perhaps? I do wish CSP would maximize out just over everything, instead of this ever so slight off. So I guess we're gonna have to exit full screen and just do, thanks Microsoft, just do an almost full screen thing. There we go. Looks just the same, except I can get to buttons that are right below the gold bar here. Anyway, so as is tradition, we are going to toss that normal layer. Yes. And we're going to get ourselves one of them nice vector layers going in here. We don't need that normal layer. And we're going to do, first character we want to do, and I'm just going to start out with this real loosely. We'll get some sort of sketchy poses, and then I'm going to try to do like an actual proper character model, well, character sheet going here. But for starters, it was Salt. I know I've talked about Salt a little bit previously. She's a character that I find fun to draw. She's a fun NPC for my D&D campaign. So I wanted to get her in here. So main goal here is I've got 2 poses. And this is, we're not going for gesture poses with a whole bunch of craziness right now. At least not yet. One of these days. But I do want to get sort of an A pose going. Keeping in mind that Salt is like 12, so not going to be full, tall adult proportions, just like a kiddo. And we're going to sort of get like just an A pose thing going in here. Want just limbs, we can get like a little variance, I guess. And then kind of arms down. Head facing forward. That's just a good like baseline. Get a good idea of what level everything's at and all of that. And then I'm going to do a sort of 3/4-ish. And again, major kudos to ABD Illustrates for giving these suggestions. They've been very helpful already. And so I'm trying to think. This one we've got a little more character because our main goal, based on what ABD was saying, is to have one arm sort of out and a pose that shows a little bit more personality. So I'm thinking Salt is always overeager, jumps into things kind of head first, not always planning things through. So I'd sort of think, again, we don't want this to be crazy action pose, just like a close-ish pose with the one arm out. So I'm sort of thinking that perhaps Salt has seen something interesting and is looking up at it. Whoo, that's a wild arm. Let's get like a little more like that, kind of a 3/4-y. Let's see, if we want 3/4, then I need to actually start with 3/4 on this piece too. So let's get kind of that going. And I don't want it to be a back view. We still want to be getting like useful details for people to be able to use as a reference if they ever want to draw this. And for my future reference, I really ought to have done this ages ago. This is just handy regardless of anyone even participating in Art Fight. Helps with character consistency. Ideally, if I can get the proportions done well, it'll help keeping those consistent too. So what I really want here is sort of 3/4-y Salt as opposed to front view Salt, which is going to be more of like this. 3/4-y Salt looking more like that. I want one arm sort of pointed up. And then, let's see, we've got the other arm kind of in a sort of like, ooh, look at that. Excitement pose. Let's see, maybe there's like a star or something. I don't know. I don't know what Salt found. Big fan of moss. And then kind of, what would you do? So if you're pointing, you're kind of leaning up to that, and I guess the other arm, I don't really want hand on hip necessarily. More just like trailing behind. Methinks. Okay, I said we weren't going to get into major gesture stuff. Well, I went and got into gesture stuff anyway. But no matter. This pose, I didn't really do a line of action for it, so it's still going to be kind of static. And again, we kind of want it to still be somewhat static. So we're going to try to get something sort of like this. Maybe even... Oh, I'm not sure this is super working for what we'll actually need on the character sheet. Let's think. Let's think for a moment. See what we've got. And obviously, chat, if you got anything you want to throw in here, I'm always open to suggestions. Like I said, backseating's not only allowed, but encouraged. If my art's terrible, feel free to tell me. I like it if you're nice about it, but it's not technically a requirement on here. I don't... Let's see. Some of the... What piece isn't quite lining up here? I think one is I'm going to lasso this and sort of like move it back a tiny bit. This one. Move it back a tiny bit, tilt it up a tiny bit, get the whole sort of, line it up with this line of action a little more. And second is I need to figure out the angle of this arm. Let's see. What would be fun? What would be fun? Salt's got a bit of a cape, but it wouldn't be good for a Dracula-like pose. Fun is, much as I think that she would enjoy doing one, I don't know that it's the most helpful pose for this. So we don't need that. Let's see. We're chasing after something. Yeah, maybe the issue is the arm was a little too... Yeah, okay, this is kind of a better angle. Yeah, we'll work with that. So I've got kind of loose poses. Again, I'm not going to commit too much to those. But I'm going to try to get like a little more of a body shape outlined here first, and then we'll start getting outfits and like a little more refining the appearance and all. Because Salt is, in truth, not really all that broad-chested in terms of like shoulders and stuff. I don't think anyone is when they're 12. You know, it's kid proportions and all that jazz. So we're just going to try to keep that simple. And I'll go ahead and start on outfits. We don't need anything crazy. But just basic sort of arm proportions. Going like that. We've got a waist that'll work. I don't need the leg. We don't need the legs to be quite so long. We'll trim those a little bit. Well, that sounds positively morbid, like some medieval, like whack doctor who, well, less doctor, more torturer who's like, well, the prison cells are a little tight. We think the prisoners would be more comfortable if, you know, if they had a little more space. And the king's like, well, why don't we just make the prisoners smaller? And the doctor's like, I got you. So we'll, instead of doing that, we'll just try to clean this up a little bit, because Salt's got... So Salt, for context, as a character, fancies herself a bit of a sorcerer, despite not having any magical skill whatsoever. Instead, most of her skill is really more in the realm of surviving in the wild for a long time, from the realm of cooking, in the realm of making potions and various moss things. And when I say cooking, I mean like crazy out there experiments. I don't think Salt would be worth her salt when it comes to like making actual food. But that's not where her energy needs to go anyway. She's a kiddo. So instead, we want sort of a more almost Kiki's Delivery Service-esque witch's outfit, because that's what she's really going for. So let's see, as far as sleeves go, short sleeves because practical for actually getting around, not going to let the fashion choices get in the way of efficiency. Alt's got places to be. And then we've got sort of a belt here, simple belt. That'll do. Again, I'm still sort of outlining the pose. We'll get proper details here in a little bit. Kind of just basic tunic-y sort of as stuff gets in the middle and then goes out. And it's sort of like, you know, mid-length here. I guess an A pose probably shouldn't have wind patterns on it, but I can't resist a little bit. It's fun to have fabric flare, you know? So kind of knees here, we'll say. I'm going to do 1 foot forward and 1 foot, like, a little bit to the side. Honestly, knees should probably even be, like, a little higher up if we're doing this properly with feet and such. I should have really done some actual proportion planning on this and not just been winging it like I've been doing all these streams. One of these days I'm going to go through and crack out that old Enviato Tuts tutorial where I actually learned how to draw, like, for real, for real. That thing's fantastic, and I think it'd be a good place to start for this digital stuff too, frankly. Highly recommend. Wonderful guides, very approachable. 10 out of 10. Enviato Tuts was what it was called. I think it was literally just learning to draw people or human proportions or something of that nature. I've found it a couple different times because I didn't save it originally. So I know it's not too hard to track down. I hate to be the person who says, oh, just go Google it. Those people are always obnoxious. If you know the answer and you tell someone to go dig it out themselves rather than providing it for assistance, like that's just being a pill. Now that's different if we're talking about like a historical subject or like a controversial idea where they might need different opinions, or it's something where it's like they should really be learning how to do this sort of research. But if it's like a quick thing like, oh, how many quarts are in a pint, and you tell them to Google it, you're just being a jerk. Also, if anyone caught that, I'm pretty sure the number of quarts in a pint is half, because that's not how those don't fit into each other. Not even a little bit. Okay, so I guess really this is probably not going to be super visible as much around the front, except for the little diamond gem on this bit. I'll admit these were a little bit, back when I first started on these boots, I was definitely pulling some inspiration from Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Awesome, awesome show, or movie. Uh, you know, a little grim at times, but that was rather the point. I hear the original manga is way more out there, which is saying something, really. Okay, so got that going. Just like a little leather piece here, so it won't have much. It won't really have much of a shine or much of a wrinkle necessarily. Um, Same for this piece. It's just sort of really ought to be more rounded on the end, if I'm honest. Salt's design might be a little bit. I know we did shape language the other day. Salt's design might have some triangle in it for being sharp and a little bit uh, out there. Not gonna wait to think and plan necessarily, but she's mostly just bouncy and friendly and fun. I like having occasional D&D NPC that's not dangerous. Really helps mix things up, makes it feel like a world and not just a series of traps and enemies to overcome. Also, it's fascinating how different players react to it. Because some players are like, ah, this is fun, it's a charming, good world, we found the civilians we're here to protect. And others are immediately, this is suspicious, we cannot trust the child. The child must be up to something. Um, not every in some campaigns that ends quite poorly. Others better. Really depends on the characters that interact with them. Uh, let's just say not all of my NPCs survive their encounters with the party, and leave it at that. Granted, if every NPC survived every encounter, that wouldn't be very climactic, would it? But you know, it'd be good if some of them did. With certain parties, even asking for one to survive might be more than you can actually get. But that's just the way of dungeon mastering. You're building the world in which other people are playing. And you should still be having fun with it and playing too, don't get me wrong. But like it's not really like, in the end of the day, as much as you have control over everything, you don't have control over everything. I wouldn't have it any other way though. Like an overly planned out campaign can be fun, but in addition to the players, if they're not on board with the story, will rebel against it and have a miserable time, and make you have a miserable time. It'll just be bad times all around. But also, it's a lot more prep work. Like you can just burn yourself out trying to plan and anticipate for everyone's actions and make sure there's enough of a world, or you can just like sort of lay out some outlines, have a few characters ready on hand, some story items that they might run into, they might not, and just kind of leave it at that. Let the players build the world, because then they get to shape it. And let me tell you, having 5 minds help shape the world is so much better than just one. Um, sure, if you were all sitting in a writing room, it would probably be terrible. Don't get me wrong. But like, in terms of just being like everyone's just trying to have fun and do what their character's gonna do, it's more exciting that way. Now that almost looks like a hand, darn it. Almost. It doesn't look like one, but it almost does. Okay, and then Salt's got this sort of, I guess, satchel ingredients bag. It's not a bag of holding per se. Truth be told, I've always wanted to make my own messenger bag, and I just sort of was messing around with some designs at one point. Was like, hey, that'd be a fun one for Salt to have. Not super going to be visible from the front, especially not because this angle makes no sense. We're going to be scooting that down a little further. Be more comfortable when they actually land on the waist, you know, as far as messenger's bags go. We'll have to have a little fabric wrinkle once we're getting more details. I said I wasn't going to do details on this layer, and then I kind of went and did details on this layer. But that's fine. There we go. Bag. It bag. Good bag. And a good bag to you, sir. Maybe don't say that to anyone. I don't think it would go over well. Good bagging. I mean, I guess that might be a compliment to like a grocery line. You're like, wow, you've done a fantastic job bagging these eggs. Um, but in normal conversation, not the best compliment you can give someone. Yeah, honestly, straight line's kind of working for me on this one, I think. Kind of a little curvature there. Yeah, we'll just keep that one. Yeah, a lot of Salt's character design still needs like a little bit of TLC to really be getting it good. Obviously, still working out the details. That's another secret thing that I kind of am hoping to get out of our fight is like some ideas. If someone else does one of these characters, how would they do it? And what are they adding and removing and stuff like that. It's not an end all be all. I'm not going to necessarily edit the characters full stop to match. Because they are still the characters that I want to have in my stories, and I don't want to just be completely beholden and all that jazz. But it never hurts to get some outside input on these things. Oh, and why is the hand tool in rotate mode? I don't like when the hand tool gets in rotate mode. Move mode, please. Move. There we go. Okay, so we've got like a little bit of a facey shape here. So I'm going to try to pull on a good front view if I can. So it's got fairly narrow chin, kind of pointed. Um, and let's see. I've got sort of the soft nose. Soft as in rounded, not as in like a pillow. That'd be kind of weird. You got a bridge of the nose. That's not supposed to be soft. Um, then two defining things for face really are big old glasses. Maybe you can may exaggerate them even a little more. There's just little button eyes like that. Let's see. Overly excited about anything and everything that's happening here. And then in addition to the glasses, some real long strands of hair. Like the ones that come in front of the ears. It's a character trope I use too much, but it's one that I really enjoy for this sort of thing. And Salt is admittedly a character that I was just like, I'm just going to make a character where I can have fun with the design. It really doesn't need to come out that far on this. Should probably still be kind of level with the glasses too. Okay. And these, I kind of need to work into some bangs. The actual like cut of the bangs changes all the time. Salt's certainly not taking any actual care with it. That's for sure. Okay, and then Salt's hat kind of it doesn't need to come up that high. I need to give it like a little more wrinkle probably. It goes to a very pointed back, which should be cut off by Salt's neck at some point in here probably. There we go, getting like a little bit of don't want to add too much detail where it's not helpful, but I do want to make sure that there is detail where it should be. Like a little bit of hair in here. Again, the front. Yeah, I'm actually kind of liking what that one's doing. Yeah, let's do that. I like to improv with hair a little bit. Obviously, once with like a full character design, I'll want to get something a little more consistent soon. Especially because the wind is clearly blowing two different directions on this right now, and this going one way and the hair going the other way. Ah well. It's a simple little first go. That's fine. Okay. And then really, man, A pose. This is kind of a rough model because a lot of the hat's characteristics and all aren't going to be super visible like this. Let's see. Zooming up like this. Jeepers. Curve, my friend. This way. Okay, maybe that is like two. Whatever. Just be like that then. We'll have to add some actual shading to this once we're going at it. That's fine. Yeah, I kind of want this to come to more of a point than it's currently coming to. So I'm thinking like don't need crazy rim in the front, and then just I do want it to kind of be as symmetrical as I can. I know there's symmetry tools. If anyone knows how to use those, like feel free to shout that out in the chat. I don't currently know how to use them very well, as is I think quite painfully obvious. Let's see. I think that's maybe getting like a little too crazy with the hat, and it looks like it's bending more on the front than it should be really with this one. There we go. Now it looks like it's kind of bending behind. Let's see if we can't do the same thing with this piece. Yeah, nothing too crazy. I ought to make sure I'm consistent about where I'm putting this patch. It really ought to be like right here. Kind of a better spot for it anyway, honestly. Although it does end up obscuring with the fold a little bit, but that's okay. Then other key piece. Let's see. I've got an old paper model here that I'm looking at. Bit of a munch into the hat. That's fine. Ah, no. I've landed in eraser land. Oh no. Okay. Back to actual like character design. Let's zoom out and see if this is looking remotely like a human. Kind of. Proportions are a little off. I think I need to move the belt up a little bit. Let's maybe scooch the zoom in a little more. Let's see if we can't just do a quick little zoop. Scoot that up a tad. I mean, right now I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. We're going to have to see when we zoom out here in a minute. No, I would not like to cut that entire layer. I actually would just like to erase this singular line, if you don't mind. And then I think now, okay, now it makes a little more sense why this one was looking like... No. Okay, I'm hitting the wrong key, that's why. I was trying to hit Control Z and I'm hitting Control... What, X? Yeah. Ah, alas, letters being actually near each other on the keyboard. How could I have predicted this? How could anyone have possibly known? Okay, yeah, that's looking silly. Let's just straight line down. Nope. Mostly straight line down. There we go. We're getting to look a little more like Salt once again. And or pencil mode, please. Yeah, I'm thinking like I don't want strong shoulders necessarily. I always accidentally give my characters really strong shoulders. And that's not really what we need for Salt. Don't get me wrong, Salt is sharp and strong in her own way. Probably stronger than she looks, but it's not like she's got like buff beach shoulders or whatever. Not gonna look like the blacksmith witches we were putting together the other day. Yeah, that actually kind of works. Obviously, Satchel is still landing over here. Not super clear on this view. I'll do like a little more clarity on some other views. That'll be fine. Wow, is this really what I've settled with for a hand? We can do better than that. I'm not saying we can do great right now, but we can do better than that. Let's just, there we go. Let's get like a normal there. We kind of got the palm going in here. Whoop. Palm going in there. Thumb overlapping some of the other stuff. And then point of fingers. Finger point. We can point that down a little more too. Zoop. It hand. Ah, it hand. Ah! No, the controls. Okay, I'd like to curve off the point a little bit. And rather than just constantly attempting to redo it, let's see if we can't actually curve it. Wow, neither of those solutions were better. That'll do. We can sort of get the top of the palm marked off a little bit there. Thumb sort of coming in here. I'd say coming in clutch, because that is what thumbs are designed to do. But, you know, that pun might be a little too on the nose. Okay, so I'm sort of like, as a basic go, that's not bad. Well, we'll want to ink it and add some other stuff later, but it's, it's a starting. Well, the cape's not going to be super visible from this, but it is an important detail. Some parts of it are. Okay. Okay, first off, there's one more patch, which again, I don't really want to be parallel. It's got to be sort of clear that it's added on here. Oh wow, I actually forgot a few details that I'm just going to go ahead and include them at the moment. One is like a little bit of trim on this. Clean up, because, whoops. Doop, 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 doop. Ah! And doop. Doopity, doop, doop. Okay. Mainly because this is a little worn at the edges. Salt has had this too long. Salt may have run away with a sort of traveling group of bards for a while, before finding her way to the place that, again, that's more of a campaign thing that I'd rather not spoil. But basically, Salt has sort of had a bit of a adventuring time, sticks with these old clothes even though they are very much worn from use. So then the other thing is just kind of a quick little over-the-shoulder cloak deal going on, because this is her sort of wizard witch cape cloak dealy bop. A lot of dealy bops today. Don't know why there's so many of those on stream. But let's just keep. Whoop. I'm okay with that. We'll sort of have the little one there, have it coming out there. And this will be more visible in that other semi three-quarter view, which is one of the reasons it's beneficial to have that. I think the satchel really probably ought to be over it. So this will kind of bundle in, and there'll be kind of like a little bit of it poking out over here. I'll exaggerate that a bit, but so you can see that this is kind of pulling into it. Yeah, that'll do. That'll be more visible on the other sides again, or like we were saying before. She's got this kind of little like wizard's cape thing going on. It's not really a full-on cloak or anything of that nature, but it's what she's got. I don't want the lines to intersect with anything and be too confusing back there. We'll just kind of... There we go. Yeah, a pose, it's not always the most flattering pose, it's not always the best pose for your characters, but it is a good one to sort of see what's going on, just as far as base character design goes. No. I've got to figure out how to stop accidentally perma-switching into eraser mode. That's not been hugely helpful, I've got to say. Okay. Whoops. Let's get back to 100%. Okay, so looking at this other one, now we sort of see what we're in for with Salt a little more. So again, we've got... I'm going to start with this piece. It's not a bad focal point. Sort of the center circle of the cloak, because it's going to be coming around. Yeah, I ought to figure out where neck is going to be here. I don't know, somewhere like that. We can adjust, we can tweak that a little as needed. So then we've kind of got the sash that's going to be coming. I don't know. I guess that's going to be sort of... We've got some interesting perspective on this one. Kind of an odd angle. Should make it fun. Should make it fun for people to look at and try to figure out what's going on, but also should make it fun to actually draw. Bit of a challenge. I do enjoy me some perspective. So there we go. We've got kind of the cloaks, or the satchel strap, which we now know kind of aligns with the belt, generally speaking. which again, we're going to sort of see it coming all the way around. The cloak sort of follows off with the shoulders like this. Although I guess that's not going to really, it's going to sort of stop like there, and any sort of stuff like that, it's going to be more going down. And then it's going to sort of tie in there, as we can see. Popping back out on this side. And this time Salt's in motion, so we're going to want to make sure that this is really actually flaring out. Whereas this side's really not flaring out. Because Salt is sort of doing a 3D arrow excuse. Let's see if we can do it. There we go. Heck yeah, 3D arrows. Yeah, so Salt is sort of like twisting in that direction while also moving upwards a little bit too. I guess the upwards has sort of got to be parallel with this. Love me some arrows. Okay, so that's sort of Salt's direction of movement in this pose. So this really is going to be sort of caught on the actual leg here. Flaring out like that. Keep it to the softer like this for now. This will give us slightly better idea of where some of these are landing, because with this moving up, the knee will be a little more visible. And still don't want it too far down. Salt is still not that tall, really. I had to actually figure out some proper character heights for this one. Because we've got a few other characters from this story that I want to be putting both on Art Fight and just more on stream in general. They're fun. Wait until y'all get to Gabbro. He's a bro. Doesn't gab much, though. Gotta say. Maybe I ought to rename him to No Gabbro. No, not quite as catchy. Okay, I do like the upward trend. Keeping in mind that gravity tends to pull things down rather than upwards, even when you've got motion going. What we really want is sort of the cloak sleeve here, and then falling down a little bit and bunching up under here. We'll get some more detail for that going a little better later. Yeah, we could have like a corner of the satchel poking out, but I'm not even sure it's going to be recognizable as that. See, I think this really actually should be... the pose is a little more dynamic the other way, though, but in terms of actually being a reference... Oh, this is the one that... There we go. I want this one to be sort of... Yeah, and then let's take this one back sort of more how it was, with the further back, further leaning in. There we go, there we go. That's what it was. I knew there was too much width, I just couldn't tell where the spare width was. Where were the widths? And once again, I'm just going to be sort of lazy on arms. Not too worried about those. Every artist is going to kind of have their own style for doing them anyway. Once again, it's something that I should get better on, but as long as I can just generally portray that these are not, they're not buff arms, they're not super muscly. They're just sort of basic, kiddo arms, I guess. I don't really know. I haven't studied children's arms particularly. I feel like that's not a Google search I want to have. Let's see how we want to do the folds here, though. Dealing with like the folds of tubes is something that is the one exception that I'm really bad at with fabric. Like I'm pretty happy actually with how a lot of my fabric art goes. But figuring out how tubes crumple is something that I've reviewed it. I've looked at it many a time. I've looked up guides and stuff, and there's some good guides on it, don't get me wrong. But like it is so hard. Because there's so many different... It's sort of the same issue that faces have, where there's a lot of different things going on, and they're very interesting, but they're all defined by sort of the value of shading and lighting, rather than they are by, like, solid lines. Like, if you actually try to draw solid lines on one of these, you end up with these really busy, really complicated, very messy, unintelligible things. You need the shading in order for them to show up at all. It makes things very complicated. So, if I'm trying to think, maybe if we've got just like a big old thing of fabric that sort of like sits down like that, you can sort of see the fold. That's the angle, if that's not quite right still. It really needs to be more of a, maybe it is more of an up. Kind of like maybe with like a little more. I don't, okay, maybe it needs to not be at the same intersection where this other one's got. There we go, there we go. Different intersections. There, we're working it out. See, we try it, we look, we determine what's wrong, we puzzle out the right way to do it. It's not just trial and error. There's actually like a little bit of trying to actually figure these things out. We'll get them more correct the next time and fewer tries. That's the theory anyway. You know, we'll see. It's very possible next time we're gonna get here and I'm gonna be like, what's a bend? Hey, hey. um, hopefully not though. Let's see. We don't want quite Joker smile necessarily. Salt's excitable, but not blow up things to defeat Batman excitable. Ah yes. Multi-layers of glasses always makes things interesting. I've experimented with kind of taller central eyes before. I'm not sure they're working so much in this one. I've tried a lot of different art styles for Salt. Got like some old, like more of this variety that tended to have taller pupils. Ah, no, I don't want to move the eye down, although that was an interesting look. Very excited Salt in here. Got the hair bangs sort of going like that. Comically long neck, almost getting like Phineas and Ferb Candace vibes. Again, like this Salt, when it's like this, I can draw Salt pretty easy. I've done it like this a whole bunch of times. When I'm trying to get like an actual like nice character reference sheet going, it's a little tougher. Whoop. Okay, this hat's always crazy to do though. And maybe a tad out of space even to do it right. The taper. It almost needs to be wider at this end, much as I love the curve on that one, to get kind of a taper going. I wish I had designed this hat to be ever so slightly less crazy. Let's go for some. There we go. Now we're talking. Point at the end. Still got the burn marks from that whole incident with the fire mage. And then we'll get, you know, kind of sort of the witchy hat traditional looks here. Gotta have those, you know. Big old patch on the front, as you do, and boom, it's Salt. Quick Salt doodle. Easy. Looks maybe a little bit frantic in this case, but that's fine. But if we're doing a full body drawing, we're doing something like this, that's going to be a little more complicated. I may end up saving this one in the ref sheet, though, just because it's kind of a fun doodle of her. Yeah, I actually enjoy how that one turned out. That's the joy of it. That's the fun with once you practice these things enough and you sort of get the hang of what the character really looks like, you can just go for it. Um, and sometimes I try to do that when I shouldn't, and I end up with these super rough, and it's like, oh no, I should have actually took my time with this a little more. But in some cases, it allows me to also figure out, you know, doing it that way, now I sort of know what to look for with the hat. I say, well, I get the curve completely wrong. Twice. Let's see if we can go for broke 3 times. That's more of a trefoil thing than anything. Okay, there we go. We'll start with this. And it's possible I've made these references ever so slightly too small. Not going to get a whole lot of detail with it like this, but that's okay. Let's go back to normal size, maybe. Zoop, zoop. Ah, okay. There we go. It's Salt. It's recognizably Salt. How are we doing on time? Okay, 45 minutes in. That's not bad. I mean, we're not going to get through. I've got like 5 characters I want to get on Art Fight. We may have to be a little more slow going on getting them up there, but I think we can at least get a decent salt ref sheet going. That's a start, and we'll just keep adding more characters as we go. Oh, I totally forgot some of the shoe detail. Oh, right, the shoes are actually cool. I forgot about that because it's more of like a. Okay, we'll have to. Gonna add some complexity maybe. It's really more of like a shoe cover type deal and then a separate shoe underneath. Or when I say separate shoe, probably more of like a sock or something. Stocking, I guess, back in those days. I need to go actually check. It's been too long since I've re-upped on my medieval literature and art and all that jazz. I need to go check and see like, hey, what was actually contemporary in those days? Incorporate some of that into these drawings. Because I think it's fun when stuff is plausible. It's like, okay, it's not just immediately drawing. Like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Crazy Witch's Hat, all sorts of fun, silly things with that. But when you can work in a little more of the real stuff, a little more authenticity, it gives you more character variety because you're not just working off of the sort of archetypes of this is a witch hat, this is a such and such. But which obviously Salt's design still has a ways to go on some of that. Uh, this is a witch hat and this is a witch robe. It's sort of the default thingamabops that you'd run into. But where was it? But the point is, like, when you incorporate real things, it gives you a little more material to work with there, so you get some character variety. But also, like, it's just a lot of fun. Like, so I studied history back in college, and it's fun. I find a lot of joy in it. There's a lot of things that you can find in there that you wouldn't be able to come up with on your own. There's stuff that's stranger than any fiction ever written. You would not believe some of the nonsense that has happened in real life. Emperors can be overthrown by the strangest things. And everyday life can be upturned by bizarre nonsense. Oftentimes for good. Like, it's not just for bad things. It's not like, oh, suddenly, you know, massive megavirus, everything's gone crazy and terrible. But there's these random changes, like the fall of the Berlin Wall is a fun one. And sure, don't get me wrong, like there's obviously all of the underlying socio and economic and political stuff that had to happen for it, but the actual way it went down was so ridiculous and so accidental and so probably a good thing because there was a way, like there were plenty of endings, plenty of alternate, if to the extent there's alternate timelines, there's a lot of ways this could have gone, where a lot of people would have gotten hurt, people would have died, it would have been like past attempts at crossing, but because of the way it actually went down, it became basically a giant block party, which is so ridiculous. But great. It's great. It's so much better than anyone would have ever expected it to go. And obviously the social problems aren't over. There are people who celebrated that day who are, I'm sure, not happy with the actual results, looking 20, 30 years later. And there's people who were miserable that day that would probably come around and like, wow, this is better. Um, life does find a way of being complicated like that. Okay, I'm going to actually figure out where the leg is before I just try to draw this stuff. You've been watching me try to redraw the same things like 6 times. Let's actually do this right a little bit. Um, but yeah, so the way the Berlin Wall went down, amongst a bunch of other things, is they had made the decision in East Germany. So a little context for anyone who doesn't know, and I have no idea if anyone's actually watching this. Feel free to throw in your thoughts on history and all sorts of other stuff if you've got different stories and different tales. But best as I know it, they had the reason for the Berlin Wall to exist was more for the East to keep its own people in rather than to prevent Westerners from getting in. They'd had issues with talent attempting to leave for various different reasons. It's complicated. I don't want to get into all that. But basically, the goal was to keep people in, not to keep people out. And so, things had been getting more complicated in the late 80s, and especially getting up into 1989 era. And eventually they'd realize, look, this isn't working. We're still losing people. It's causing huge morale problems. And now that the Iron Curtain has sort of come down in Austria areas and otherwise, there's massive migration and it's looking kind of embarrassing. So we're going to set up a proper visa system that people can actually like use. It's not just going to be a fraud affront. We'll still have restrictions on it, but we're going to make travel possible. We're going to do this. However, This decision was made somewhat frantically because things were moving quickly, and there have been protests on the streets, including the very embarrassing for the East German government, people chanting when Gorbachev visited, begging him to save them from their own government, which is never when you're having your 40th anniversary parade to celebrate how awesome your government is, and your people are cheering for other people to save them from you. It's not a good look. So things were tense, and they thought, okay, let's actually make some of this work. But when they handed it off to the representative to actually tell the news, to have it, aired and announced, they neglected one rather important detail, which was when it actually goes into effect. And also that you need a, documentation for it. So he's out there and he's like, okay, he basically says that we're opening the gates. And one of the reporters is like, when? And you see him, there's recordings of this on YouTube, it's great. He sort of shuffles through his paper, and you can't blame the guy, because we've all been in a group presentation where someone doesn't pull their weight, and you've got, like, no actual answer, and you just have to go for it. Like, you're on the spot, and he's like, sort of looks through, and he's like, immediately. Well, that was probably the wrong answer. Because the actual answer was in a few weeks from now, but he didn't have that information, so, no fault of his. Well, everyone who heard that was like, wait, it's open now? And so they went. And so there were these hordes of hundreds, maybe thousands of people going up to the gates in Berlin. And the poor guards who were on duty that night probably thought it was going to be like any other night. And so they're just standing there. There's like, a handful of people there. And they're like, why are there suddenly massive crowds chanting for us to open the gates? Do we need to fire upon them to get them to go back? Do we need to just say no? What are they talking about? What do they mean they saw it on the news? Eventually, level heads overcame and prevailed, I suppose is the word. And so they're like, okay, just open the gates, let the crazy crowd through, let the Western people deal with them, and then we'll just kind of close the gates behind them and we'll figure it out later. Well, they opened the gates, the crowds went through, they kept going, and they kept going, and more people kept going, and they never did actually get those gates closed again, ever. They basically just gave up on it. They're like, well, okay, it's done. And so then it was almost immediately the area that for years it had been a death sentence to try to cross that, because the wall wasn't just a wall. It was a small wall on one side, a big wall on the other, and in between was this horrible sandy death zone with a million mines and towers to snipe people, and it was horrible, horrible. And so people trying to get past it had been a death trap for ages, and then basically overnight you've got people coming at it with sledgehammers, because they're like, hey, it's done! We don't need this anymore, they announced it on the news! And it was! Like, it didn't close again. Which is crazy. It's crazy how that worked out. So, like, obviously all this stuff had to happen to lead up to it, and the gates were gonna open most likely anyway. Not that history's inevitable, you never know what could have come up, but it was, that was the most likely outcome. But the way it went down as a fully lacking in violence, a fully just peaceful kind of just, ended up being more of a party celebration of people getting to reconnect. It's wild. And of course, after the first night of partying, all the excitement, there's still consequences and challenges and all sorts of things. Life wasn't perfect after that. It definitely, trying to reunite countries is hardly a simple task at the best of times, and, end of the Cold War was not necessarily the best of times for everyone involved. We're still suffering some of the pains from how certain pieces were handled. And that fault is very much as much on the West as the East. I'm not trying to point fingers there. The team effort to muck that up. But the point is that it was the start of some really cool changes. And it went down in a way that is really awesome. Seriously, I recommend watching some videos or recordings. They've got all the news posts and stuff on YouTube of like the anchors going out to record this, because no one expected it. It's not like there were news anchors out there ready to announce this great change. So it's hysterical watching the folks in like America and like the UK and stuff a little further, where they make the initial announcement like that, oh, the wall's coming down, and then you can tell that they immediately hopped on the first flight they could to get over there. because the very next broadcast is them standing in front of the wall in Berlin, and you're like, hey, wait a second. Some last second plane tickets. But yeah, it's cool. Obviously, things are still challenging now. Politics in Germany are as complicated as, well, maybe not as ever, but they're very complicated. Things here are complicated. World's a rather complicated place, as it turns out. But that doesn't mean that the good things are not worth celebrating, and that they're inherently overshadowed by the bad, or that they'll inherently lose to the bad. So, yeah. Just because something's good doesn't mean it's worthless or hokey. Sometimes good stuff actually just happens like that. And you're like, well, this wasn't in the plans. No one who wrote even like a week prior that was going to happen would have been taken seriously. Um, but, you know, it did happen. And that's enough of my history moralizing. Let's get back to the actual art. I realize I just stopped drawing there for a while. Oops. Um, I'm going to try to finish up this sort of like rough sketch a little bit. I think we're just going to try to do the character sheet for Salt tonight, really. The others can come as they do. We can work on those over the next couple of days, as well as some actual art fight drawings. I do plan on doing those on here too, often as I can. Wowzers. Foot angles are the worst. Okay, Salt. Let's see. I don't know. Your pants are just generic pants, I guess. I choose to imagine they're cargo pants. Um, actually, after all that, let's take a quick pause. It's been an hour. My mouth is super dry after just going on and on about that on quite a tangent. I'll be right back with y'all in just a few minutes. Hey y'all, we're back. Sorry about that. And sorry, I realized that I've been talking about how the music's on here. Like, putting in the announcement and everything that we got music, and it wasn't even playing. I've just been here talking about Berlin and random nonsense, and we didn't even have songs going. So let me know if you can or can't hear that. Obviously, no pressure if you don't want to participate. You ain't required to. But we're happy to hear from you if you got stuff to say. Okay. So we're getting towards more of the side details for Salt stuff. Big patch, nothing consistent about the stitching on that patch, mind. Thinking we maybe, yeah, I kind of like how that looks. Got some no copyright twitchable lo-fi. Hopefully everyone's cool with that. Good bit of music. Okay, I think we're getting there. I'm not going to worry too much about the boots on this one. Well, I don't want to... Unfortunately, I have finite time to work on things, such as the way, and I am definitely not quite at the level of detail where I can render these boots how I'd like to. Add some of the details that I want to. Little stitching in the back. And the fact that it's kind of flexible leather, so it's sort of going to bend with the foot. And the fact that... no, I've done it again. There we go. And the fact that the back is sort of uncovered. We've got some ominous music going on Spotify. Let's move to the next one. Ah, heck yeah. You got a little Cyber's world going in here. Y'all can only see the bottom quarter of that. Sorry about that. I'll have to work on that in the future. Hey, see, here's a good hand, and I wasn't even really paying attention when I did that one. How did that happen? Ooh, tad pitchy there with Cyber's world. Ah, well. Okay, let's... I don't want, I want the top of the arm to be straight here. Kind of curves under. There we go. Because again, we want this one to have slid back down from the elbow a bit, unlike this one that's already all the way out there. We're kind of wanting this hand. Nope. It's so good there up until that bit. There we go. Recognizably hand without enough details for anyone to question it. Hey, my kind of hand. It's funny, I still haven't gotten Salt's face style to look super consistent. Between these two it actually kind of does. Then you get this one, which admittedly this one's my favorite. I love this one. But we gotta get there still. Okay, but that's some good basic Salt stuff. I may take a little pause, doodle another character just to refresh my mind and my hands, and then we'll come back to these. And I'm gonna try to do some proper inks, less thought about proportions and layout and more thought about getting coloring and shading and some actual useful stuff in here, because I do enjoy these Salt drawings. But for now, we're going to just pop those away. Base poses. Salt sketches. Now let's see if I can't get Olivine going. Olivine's another fun character. I like Olivine. Where have I got Olivine doodles these days? Where am I keeping those? I have too many active sketchbooks at once. Can't ever find anything. Digging through my notes. Where the heck did I put Olivine? Where is she? Other sketchbook. That's right. Okay. Olivine, where are you hiding? So, for context on some of my character creation here, maybe a little insight into the ideation, because one of the things I always struggled with art is I never thought of myself as a creative individual. I was I just like following instructions and doing simple, plain stuff. I'm not out there enough. I'm not coming up with new ideas. But, you don't have to be, just innately coming up with those. No one is ever, just immediately and eternally coming up with ideas. So you give yourself a little bit of a structure to work with if you're the sort who doesn't think of yourself as creative. You're okay, we can get a little baseline of a story, just some basic stuff. And if you're struggling on ideas, think about other stories that you read, other comics, other artists' stuff. And think about, okay, here's a character that I enjoy, here's some character traits I like about them. Let's see if I can't come up with someone who would fit some of those traits. You don't have to pick all of them. You can pick some of them. You can mix and match from a few different characters. Um, like Salt, I mean, I took inspiration from a million different places there. Everything from Millie and Ozzy and Millie. Little bit of Harpy from Harpy G. Fantastic comic, by the way, that one. Harpygee for context. Little bit of, obviously, like from Pepper and Carrot, Pepper and Salt. There's a little bit of a name inspiration, although these days Salt is definitely more the mineral than the flavoring. If you've guessed from some of the other names, like thinking Olivine, Gabbro, and Feldspar. Not exactly the crystal gems, but a fun bunch. I took more geology classes than I should have, perhaps. Let's see. Okay. But yeah, so the sort of the character ideation. So I was trying to come up with, I had the personality for Feldspar super in mind. This was a character, I was like, okay, I've got Salt, who's bouncy and energetic and exciting, and a little impulsive. I need someone who's going to be lower key, who's going to sort of be like the straight man to her craziness. Kind of an Ozzy and Millie dynamic, but I'm going for a different, not the same deal there. They both tend to be a lot more philosophical than either of these folks, for starters. But in trying to come up with Feldspar's design, looking at medieval art and stuff, I just couldn't pinpoint it. I kept coming up with other character designs and being like, you know, that looks like a great character design for someone who isn't Feldspar. And so I kept going. I'm still working out Feldspar's design. Currently he's got kind of a, I forget what the hat's called, it's sort of that Robin Hood style one. We'll figure out Feldspar with time. But in the meantime, sort of originating from one of the from a doodle that was aiming for Feldspar, we've got Olivine. Olivine's fun. I like Olivine because she's sort of more of a knight in training. Olivine's color is very much in the emerald greens. For anyone who knows what Olivine actually is, you might be able to guess that. It's sort of the rougher mineral form. In crystal forms, you see it as like peridot or peridot. But there's also, if you hear about the green sand beaches, those tend to be Olivine, and also very rare and hard to get to, unfortunately. So Olivine, definitely kind of a softer, maybe not grassy green necessarily, but that's what we've kind of got going here. Yeah, we'll stick with it for now. Again, this is supposed to just be a quick doodle. And so again, in the same style, so Salt sort of has the rounded nose. Olivine's definitely more of a, well, not quite that much of a crook nose, maybe. But more of just a straight out, or actually even, oh, that's right, I've got the sketch here now. More of a, like this. Yeah, we'll work with that. Actually, I want more length in the chin than elsewhere. Olivine kind of here. Olivine always taken aback by whatever the heck Salt has gotten herself into. I need to get the ear position before I can get some of the other pieces. I want to work on more like slightly varied ear designs. I know no one pays that much attention to them, but it's kind of fun, and not just between different species. Like I know obviously you've got kind of like elven ears and like goblin ear looking things, or kind of cat ear stuff. But like, I mean like actually different, like differences between the same sort of ear. So different human ears and different elf ears or cat ears or what have you. Like you want some variance in there, make them interesting. Make them, it's good for more distinct silhouettes, which helps with making things recognizable. It's good for a lot of things. Okay, so that's kind of where I want the hairline. So what I really want here is the visor. Because Olivine's got kind of a visory thing going on. I need kind of a, maybe not that much of a pinch to it. There we go. Kind of needs to taper off. You can tell I'm a little more out of practice with Olivine than with Salt. Oh, jeepers. Animal Crossing coming in real aggressive there. Let's see. Let's do the eyes actually real quick. Kind of got this sort of... Olivine doesn't have glasses, so we've got like actually a little more detail on the eye outline. I want kind of, again, we've sort of got the little bit of like not the best bangs coming out from under here, and then you got kind of the visor underneath. So the visor comes down, has this kind of, I shouldn't be doing the pinch yet. I need to get the curve first, and then I can add the pinch on the curve. There we go. And now we can add the pinch, and it's actually properly relative to everything. Okay, there we go. Don't need this one. And this should... Wow. Ah! I've gone and left myself on the eraser again. Okay. Howdy, everyone. We're just real quick, I realized that I haven't said this in a while. What we're doing is I'm putting together some Art Fight character ref sheets, because I'm getting Art Fight halfway through. You know, the perfect time to join in, but it's not too late. It goes through the end of the month. It's a fun little art drawing thing, but really it's an excuse to draw your characters and draw other people's characters a little more, which never hurts. Because motivation is one of those things that's real stinking hard to find sometimes, especially when you're busy. So having a timeline with a little bit of a deadline and some fun like reasons to actually like work on this stuff is always good. Okay. And then she's got this kind of more of a bonnet thing going on here. I never quite get this bottom angle right. Because we've got that, and then we need sort of like some ribbons that kind of help tie it off. And the most fun way to draw ribbons, by the way, is with them overlapping on themselves like this. Adds a lot more of a dynamic sort of character to them. You do want to avoid making them too parallel, though, or else it's, you know, kind of obvious that you're just following one pattern. But we sort of got the ribbons there. Got kind of a little connector for the ribbons at the bottom where they're tied off. So Olivine mostly, and now we can actually make this hairline into hair and not just awkward bad hairline. It's, you know, it's kind of like real basic bangs. Not super maintained. It's not where she's focusing her energy particularly. Now we've got kind of the neck leaning off here. Oh, you can curve this up a little more, make it look like an actual collar. There we go. I sort of... Olivine obviously still needs a few tweaks, a few adjustments. I feel like Olivine ought to be looking... it just looks embarrassed instead of exhausted. Olivine's had a long day, methinks, in this one. Wow, okay. The one downside of this playlist is it has a few that are a specific style lo-fi that is super pitchy. Another one. Sure, let's try this one. Because it's most of them are so lovely, but then that particular filter is so painful. It's like, it's interrupted my brain thoughts, as opposed to my other thoughts. Housed in, I don't know, my left arm. Oh, rats. This one is too. Okay, come on. This one better. There we go. Let's get some more muted. I hope. Gonna have to turn the music down if it keeps that up too much. I mean, tell me y'all's thoughts. Like, do you enjoy the music when it's louder or quieter? Can you even hear it? Have I gone and set it up completely wrong? I would believe that. I'm still trying to figure out some of this stuff. This is our first stream with music audio, by the way. So we are still working out some of the kinks, but we will get there. Okay, this has been a fun little detour with Olivine, but we will get back to the main character for today, which is going to be Salt. We got the background a slightly blue tint to help with you know, contrast. Oop, yeah, there we go. Olivine. Maybe Ollie for short. We'll see. We'll see what we end up going with for her. Okay, but for this one, I'm going to sort of mute it down a little bit. We're going to add the new vector layer. And I'm going to try a technique. I used to do this way back when. So I have tried learning digital art before, and there was a brief period where I got like actually kind of halfway decent at it. Made a fun desktop background or two and some other stuff like that, but not much. But there's this awesome tutorial. This was back when I was using Krita. Which I highly recommend, by the way. Free software, absolutely phenomenal. But this tutorial on Udemy that was like $10 or something. Worthwhile investment by someone named Weedy, W-I-D-H-I. And his tutorials are awesome. But his technique was once he got sort of the outline sketch going, all of his art after that was basically lineless. Um, at least while he was doing this for what he was doing for these tutorials, and so he lived and died off this lasso tool. And it's a really fun art style. It's a little tricky. Um, it's a little finicky. It's something that I definitely want to work on a little more. But it's not one I've tried in CSP. It's pretty doable in Krita, I gotta say. But yeah, see, the problem is when you mess up your lines on it, it gets real complicated to sort of go back. So I always end up going real slow on my lines. Because I say lineless, but that just means that it doesn't have a border in this case. Okay. So the good thing about CSP that's really nice is that you've got much better sort of line cleanup options around this lasso. Like I can just come in with this pen and sort of like add sections that I missed a little bit where the curve wasn't good. Oh wow, I like this song normally, but this is so pitchy. If anyone has other like copyright-free playlists you listen to, I know not everyone just goes and searches for copyright-free playlists, but if you know of some, I am very much open to recommendations right now. We're still trying to define the vibe of this stream, so to speak. We don't have anything set in stone. Let's see if I can... Okay, so I can't use shift to adjust this pen tool. I'm going to have to actually just go use this. But yeah, I can sort of like clean this up a little bit. And you know, eventually it'd be nice to be able to just do sweeping strokes and get it all the first time. But we're not quite there yet. So we're just going to try to get some flat layers in for now. Yeah, this is already a nicer selection tool than how Krita's was. You mess that one up, you're like, well, I need to go restart. Oh, and it's got a deselect. Oh, okay, this is actually super nice. Okay, y'all, Clip Studio Paint, it's got some nice perks. I can't lie. Still love Krita, though. Like, absolutely, if you don't want to spend any money on this, you're just trying to see, like, this might be something fun. Start with Krita. Krita is awesome. Okay, I don't think I can fill tool on vector layers. Because it has to be referring to other layers and all sorts of doodads like that, which is fine. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to grab this watercolor brush. I haven't changed the control for the watercolor. Okay, is there a way to... Let's see if I can make sure that my drawing stays inside the selection. Oh, I can add tones. That's intriguing. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, but that's something I'm going to have to mess with later for shading. That could actually be really fun. Okay. So clearly I still need to do a little bit more tweaking on tool controls and such. But let's just make this massive. That didn't stay in the selection at all. Anyone offhand know how to do that? How to keep pen within selection on CSP? I know how to make it sort of reference a previous layer. I can lock a layer. I can set... Okay, delete outside selection? I wonder if it's also just an issue with this particular pen. Let me try this with just a real plain... Like, okay. Let's just get the G pen. Let's just make it stinking massive. And then if I do... delete outside selection... Okay, so this... I wonder if this is a vector issue or what? Okay. Not exactly what I'm looking for. Oh dear. Let's see if I can't get rid of this big old blob. Nothing I can't fix. That's what layers are good for. I'm going to take just a moment to do a little bit of research on the CSP controls. Please bear with me. We are experiencing some minor technical difficulties, where the technical is me. Problem exists between keyboard and chair, as they say. CSP fill within selected area only. Instead of fill, let's actually just do draw. Draw in selected area. Ask Clip Studio. Let's see. Okay, so that's how. Okay. Well, I don't want to have to mess with a specific layer for each color. I guess that's probably good practice, to be fair. Okay, let's see if I can find something specific to this tool, and then if we need to try some other workflows later, I am okay with that. Okay, so you've got selection. Okay, so those are all the subtools. Okay, they're using the fill bucket on theirs, which obviously not super successful. I assume gradient, same issue. If I get this and just do that, that doesn't work. It's leading outside the selection. I don't know what it's doing, but it's not doing what it says. I can just delete everything, I guess. Okay. So let's try one of these other options then. You know, like I said, these are learning streams. You're learning with me, but I'm also doing a lot of the learning myself. Let's see. Okay, there's tips on vector layers, which again, super love those. They're wonderful. Okay. Clipping layers, you have to have actually drawn, like, the filled-in color area first, though. That's not super what I want to do. Auto-select tool is a nifty little thing. Maybe, okay, haha! Maybe it is time to actually have the normal raster layers. Their purpose, it has been found at last. Maybe? Maybe? Ha ha! Raster layers, I know I've treated you poorly before, but things have changed now. The time has come for some proper rastering. Okay, so I do actually need to note that Salt's attire is for the most part kind of beigey browns. I don't want flesh tones. A, it would look awkward, and B, I don't think Twitch would love that. We kind of want beigey browns with red accents for the most part. I'm going to start with this. Oh, those raster outlines are a little rough with the pixels. That's fine. We'll work with that later. Maybe we want the sketch layer above this. Okay, wait. This layer doesn't have anything on it. Okay. I don't want to delete it in case there's something there I totally forgot about. But yeah, okay, let's start with this. We've got a little color fill. I'm going to go back to our awesome little selecty tools because they have been wonderful. I kind of wish the icons up here didn't change, and then you could just say like this is the select category because I always lose stuff when I try a new tool. I'll get used to that though. Okay. Selection pen. Guess we ought to have done flesh tones first. We should. The way to do this, if you're smart, is to, well, to not do that. That hasn't been the control at all forever. Okay. The way to do this, if you're smart, is you start on the lowermost layer and work your way up. So in this case, that's going to be some of these background pieces. And, oop. If we can't just get a little cleaning sweep there. And the other smart thing to do would probably be to actually just do different layers for each of these colors. Salt, unfortunately, has a lot of different colors going on. I need to be smart about what I'm doing on which layer. So we got kind of, let's do the background cloak layer. Let's see what else should be on this. I think the actual satchel itself should probably be on this. Okay, good. I was going to ask if that's something I can move. It moved itself. Very helpful. Thank you. Okay, I kind of want to get this whole section too. I'm going to fill these on a different layer than the one that we're currently like actually selecting on, because the select apparently can survive across different layers, which is nice. I'm actually going to grab the bottoms of the shoes too. Just thinking about everything that's not connecting and that's going to be on different layers. Because I don't plan on moving any of these pieces. So I'm not trying to think about like what needs to move independently or not independently. Oops, bumpy shoe. I'm just trying to think about sort of like the order of layers. What's on top, what's underneath. We'll sort of get the heel here as well. Work our way back up. We'll get the skin tones on another one as well. Got the arms, we got the face and neck, we got a little bit of legs, and then we'll get boots, we'll get hair, we'll get hat. Oh, do I want to get hat now? Do I want to get hat now? Hat's complicated, but it's going to be easier to... I think it's going to be easier to do it now. And I guess, really, I don't need to worry so much. As long as I can just sort of trace general outline, I can then fill in the gaps with this. This is so much nicer. Krita's, while lovely, the only way I ever figured out or learned how to use it basically required me to get all of the strokes perfect on the first go. Everything I wanted to include. There was no expanding the selection area or really editing it that I saw. I'm sure there's a tool for it. I just didn't ever see it. And so all of this stuff, like I'd have had to nail all of these details in one clean sweep, which is tough. Don't get me wrong, it gets you better at the details. Really, really does. But it is not easy. Okay, these ones are kind of... I want to say let's go with the darker. What I need to do, what would be smart, would be to get an actual color palette out. Build the color palette before we jump into this. Make sure we've got some complementary browns. May do that in just a moment, actually. See if we can do some palette building. But for now, I'm going to just get things spaced in, and then we can adjust colors as needed. Okay, this is super cool, actually. This is sort of the culmination of the reason I sort of swapped to CSP. Part of it was the vector editing and stuff. But getting good select layers like this, heck yeah. Pardon me. Oh, it's even got the... Oh, okay, yeah, this is how it was meant to be used. This is how it was meant to be used. Boop, 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 boop. Got it. Okay, so we've got that layer. I'm just going to try to do gradients of, like, what goes above what. So next up, let's do skin tones, I suppose. Which need to... Let's see, this one is that, so it needs to be above that. It needs to be below this one. So this is the right place for it. We got kind of skin tones. Salt is pale. Not all the characters are, but Salt is. Okay, let's get selected. It's you. First run, I'm going to do the lasso tool, and now, because I know... it's in front of the browns, isn't it? It actually probably ought to be behind these as well. Skin tone, I think, is actually going to be our bottom layer. But because I know that this stuff's going to be covered up, I don't have to worry so much about the lines. Anywhere it's going to be covered. Yeah, see, this is what I mean about, like, for the old way I'd been doing it, I'd have to be doing perfect on this. No mistakes. And already you can see I've, like, veered away from my lines somewhat. And I'm used to just sort of having to live with that, but now I can actually change it, which is kind of nice. Okay. So I'm just going to fill that mess. And then we're going to do some more selecting down here. Nothing, actually, there's not too much to get here. Just need to make sure we've got legs sort of sorted. See how that one looks. It's going to look weird. That's fine. That's fine for now. Okay. skin. Let's see. Darker slash behind. I'm gonna need to make like folders or something to sort this mess. Oh right, I did that one assuming it would be behind the skin. Okay. Well, that's a right mess either way. I'm gonna have to actually just clean one of those up. Main tunic of sorts. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of, let's see, is this erase all layers? Is this erase any, well, it's a vector eraser, that ain't gonna do squat to any of them. What's this gonna do? Well, if I have stuff selected, I suppose it won't do anything either. There we go, awesome layer specific erasing! That is what we'd like to see. I can do like a little bit of hat cleanup here. I know that I'm gonna have like a hair layer that's gonna catch more of that. Okay, yeah, I actually don't want that. Okay, I'm good with that. Just a little bit of cleanup there, and that's fine. Next color layer. Oh, this is so fun. It's been so long since I've done actual, like, flats and such. Let's see what we want to get. You know, the darker behind, I actually... Really, what we ought to do... Just thinking about it, the whole hat can be in here. Like, I can get details and stuff on this later. But this whole thing is going to be... Wow, that was a terrible select on my part. Let's do just the tiniest bit of cleanup on that mess. Woo! Okay. There we go. Well, that's not great either, but it's better. We can do a little bit of add select with just like a real fine point. There we go. That's more like what we're looking for, methinks. There we go. There we go. Okay. And then I'm just gonna casually eyedrop the heck out of my own thing and fill. Once again, having a color palette would be the correct choice. That's, however, not the choice that I've made. Okay, so now I'm gonna need another layer that's sort of the darker but in front section. I'm gonna make it slightly off from this one so it's easier to tell. Eventually we'll probably want to make it mostly match. So let's add ourselves another raster layer. Yeah, the vector versus raster does make it easy to, like, pretty easy to just at a glance see, like, okay, this is a color layer, this is a drawing layer. Boom. Do 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 do. Like the song. And again, if y'all can't hear the songs, do let me know. That's my bad. So let's just take a look-see. We'll do some quick lasso work on these, and then we'll clean it up later. That's sort of been my workflow in the past. We'll see if that translates well. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and focus on this one first. And then we want the dark brown, so I'm actually gonna make it slightly darker brown, visually distinct, still recognizably related. Okay. I need to lasso sort of this. Oh, jeepers. Other question, why the heck am I using my mouse for this? I have a pen designed for this on a tablet. What the heck am I doing? Yeah, old habits die hard, as you can see. Not that that was a great select, mind. Okay, so doing that is just going to keep creating new ones if I do the lasso. So maybe I actually do prefer, like, just the selection pen. Maybe that's sort of the way we go. Kind of liking this, because it's just additive. Like, I can just keep adding more stuff. Sort of feel it in, which again, not recommended for line work and all, but it's... I think it's probably actually fine for this in terms of being, even in terms of like best practices and stuff, I think it's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and get the patch here. Smart would be to somehow have that clip to the previous layer below it. But I wouldn't want that for the belt, so that adds some complexity. Let's see. I sort of got the boots coming in here. Details popped away. Okay, yeah, this is really cool. Is this one a Pokemon song? I'm trying to remember what this is even from. Also, welcome to anyone who may have dropped by in chat. I'll admit, I'm still fairly new to this. You're on my 4th ever stream. Awesome, first ever weekend one, if that's a significant milestone. No pressure to participate, of course. But I also don't entirely know how to tell if you're there. So I'm just going to keep on talking like you're there. If you're there, you can just enjoy my nonsensical ramblings and all of that. But, you know, if you want to jump in and say hi, you're also free to. I do have chat open, so I should see it. But again, no pressure. We want people to feel comfortable here. It's supposed to be good vibes, comfy vibes, or to the extent that we have vibes. We're still defining the vibes, you know? If down the road we end up thinking that we need electro swing vibes, then those are the vibes we're going to get. But, you know, for now, this is what we're working with. Wow, I have made those so uneven. I should stop. I need to go practice, like, the leg wear and stuff like that. Just trying to sort of rush my way through it has been less than successful. Okay, I want sort of this dark brownish black for the hair layer, which I am going to make its own layer, actually. Not a vector layer, though. Let's go ahead and let that one go. Raster layers. Today has been, like, the revengeance of the rasters. They have come back in full force. What is this layer? What is this layer? It's hair now. Hopefully it won't be gone tomorrow. Hey, terrible puns. That's what I'm here for, though. Like, if you don't enjoy a truly terrible pun, I mean, you're still welcome to stay, but just brace yourself. Because I have many of those to offer. And I wouldn't want this streams to be, you know, too punishing for anyone who didn't realize that that's what they'd signed up for. Oh, jeepers. Okay. Smaller point pen for the hair details. That's fine. We'll crack out the erase, and we can just sort of smooth that out. Kind of like that adds some interesting texture to it, so I'm kind of going to keep a little of that as it is. Let's see if we pop this down a little bit. Clean that up. Realizing that I'm not sure this part's supposed to be hair. No, it definitely is. Okay. So it's just that's included sort of past the ear. The actual end of this hair doesn't have much in the way of silhouette. That's okay for now. We can add that with shading. Okay, we'll sort of catch these areas that we missed. Okay. And let's see what else we can get going in here. Wow, her foot looks like it's straight up on backwards. We need to fix that. Okay, let's see. That's the darker behind layer. Let's jump back on here real quick. Let's do a little bit of a patch up on this. Now that we're getting a little more the hang of the selection pen. Let's make this look, you know, actually like a shoe. I'm going to use the erase pen to clean this up to look more like a heel. Okay, I guess I need to deselect. What I really need to do here is, I guess, select and then erase it. Which should be doable with a hard eraser. Okay, still doesn't look like a foot, but at least it doesn't look... Oh, okay, wait. I see where I need to adjust. Okay, let's go selecty pen. I trace that out as the back of the heel. Then I erase this little bit. Yeah, okay, that's better. Okay, salt's coming together bit by bit. I do not love how rough the edge on this is, the pixelation there. Gonna have to do a little work on that. But I think we at least have our sort of flat layers in. Again, even if this ends up being kind of a lineless E style, we are still going to, of course, have to do a little bit of line work for the face and stuff. So I may... So we got the salt sketch on top. Don't know what that layer is. That one's Olivine's face. Haunting you forever. No. Okay. So now on each of these, if I'm clever, I really don't think... I don't think this layer is anything. Nothing changes in the preview? Yeah, no. Okay. We'll toss that one. We don't need Olivine visible. I may throw Olivine down here, actually, just to sort of hide away. Gonna do a quick save. I realized I ain't been doing that. Need to do more of that. Okay. If we want to get a little bit better... Well, okay, I'm gonna need to add one layer for some of the red details. I'm gonna need to get a better color palette going. And of course, we're going to need to do this one too. And maybe fix the blasted feet. Holy cow. Okay, this is going to be a more than one day process, but that is A-okay. I can keep working away on these. I may work on these a little off stream too, so I can get them posted and we can get started on some art fight stuff. But I do want to see, just as a real basic thing, I'm going to start with the darker behind one, methinks. Yeah, because I want to just test this with the hat. Going to add a layer to it, but I want to clip these together. So let me see if I can. Okay, so it's clipped to the layer below. Ah, no, not that one. So it's clipped to this. So that should mean that if I could just go crazy with a pencil. Let's do blue so it'll be super obvious. Can't do anything there, can do stuff there. Okay, good, that's working as I expected. But then the other thing I'm going to adjust is the blending mode. Because I actually want multiply. Heck yeah. Now, I'm still going to use this same brown. Oh, I also need to get rid of those blue stripes on there. While they were multiplying and keeping the same hue, I do want to actually use the brown. I'm not trying to do lighted coloring necessarily. I'm just going to do sort of shades of this own thing. And then I'm going back to the Selecty tool, because this is getting back into a workflow that I'm actually... this is nice. I missed having a workflow that felt as comfortable as this. Oh man, the pixels. I've drawn salt a little too small here. We're gonna... I guess for this I really ought to... Let's assume a little bit of blue, or... I want vibrant. Let's do a little bit of more of a red for this. So I'm gonna fill this. But knowing that it's a multiply layer, a multiply layer, there we go. So now it's just more of a reddish hue on the brown. Still entirely too dark though. Need to make it more of like that maybe. I just want it to be a shadow. Okay. Oh, dagnabbit, did it really re-add that? Don't need my little silly test lines. And now I'm just going to have to go back and remember how the heck to do shadows. But that's something for me to review. This stream has been much better than I expected to. I was real tired when we were about to start out. Wasn't sure I was going to feel up for it at all. But we've made some actual breakthroughs today. This has been good. I need to refresh on my shading a little bit now, obviously. Just gonna do some scribblies like that. We'll fill that, kind of get a shadow going. Yeah, see, that's not a great shadow. And while this will help define the brim a little bit more, it's still not great, because what I'd really like to be able to do is to be able to, once we've got all this sorted out, we've got the shadows and the highlights, which we'll get to a bit in the future, really and truly thought out. Let's see if we can't add that one a little bit. Looks kind of smudgy. But if I smooth it out with this one, I can actually fix it in an additive way rather than subtractive, and yeah, okay. But the end goal is that we could totally turn off these and that we'd have just a nice little like kind of painterly lineless style, which has always kind of been my vibe. So for some background, when I started art, sketching was my least favorite thing in the world. Digital art was in the same boat, except even more impossible because I didn't have tablets and I didn't want to mess with like a mouse. My goal was really to the end of other projects. I wanted my long-term overarching story arc for like volume 1 of my drawing career, for lack of a... because I can't think of any more ostentatious way to put it. I wanted to be able to render thoughts in 3D. I wanted to be able to take an idea in my mind and specifically create a 3D thing of it. Whether that was 3D modeling, or 3D printing, or clay work, or getting really good at perspective and sketching. I didn't care how I ended up doing it. I just want to be able to say, I have thoughts, I need to be able to render them in a way that I could create them. I was approaching it from the more technical side. I was more of a science STEM kind of guy back then. So that was my goal. That was my whole point of it. I wanted to be able to do that, to take a concept and create it in 3D and make it happen. And I went through a lot of different variants on that. Early on, though, one of the first ones I really connected with, besides calligraphy, weirdly, really enjoy calligraphy, kind of unrelated, tangent project, but one of the things I really did early was like paper cutting work, where you're basically just doing layers of paper in a panorama. So there's no lines. Like, you can do some drawing on it, but it really obviously doesn't match unless you're really good at it, which I was still learning, so I wasn't that good at it. So you get these kind of diorama looks, and it was a lot more like this, where you're having to look at contours and really show them, sort of like what we did with the hat, and actually, at least the upper part of it. You can sort of see the creases and the folds. This is, you know, I may have to work on resolution and some other things of that nature. Maybe I ought to be doing these in like 4K instead of HD and then shrink it down to HD sizes. We'll figure that out. But the point was that they ended up looking more like this. And then what I really got into were these vinyl stickers, which you can get vinyl pretty darn cheap on Amazon, just like adhesive vinyl. And with an X-Acto knife or a pair of scissors, you can create some really cool stuff with that. It's a real fun project. So I worked with that for a while. I actually, for a long time, got into sewing. It's a surprisingly fun way. It's a very different way of thinking about it, of approaching all of these things. Pardon me. I need to drink some water. I've not been hydrating. Need a hydrate command, darn it. Come on, bot, that I haven't implemented yet. So that's, come on, me. Well, okay. So I did sewing, which is a different way to think about it, but it was actually a very effective way to render stuff in 3D. I did 3D modeling for a while, 3D printing for a while, a million different things. But all of it, really, like the earliest stuff I did was in this sort of lineless style. And as much as, you know, I've come to enjoy drawing and sketching and figuring out shading on that, this is really still my favorite way to do stuff. Now, this one obviously is still looking pretty rough. There's a lot of stuff we're still going to need to figure out, like the stinking backwards foot. I don't know how I've accidentally made it so that it looks like this is the heel instead of that's the heel. Probably the straight line tapering directly to the toe. I'll have to tweak that a little. And, you know, we've got a long way to go on these, but this is going to be a fun little project. I'm going to try to... I may not stream the entire process of rendering these ones out, just so that I can get something on an art fight, but I've got a whole bunch more characters, including some I haven't mentioned on stream ever yet, that I'm going to have to get to in the next few days or weeks. And we'll get them on there one way or the other. I've also actually, of all things, went to my local library and checked out some books for medieval attire, so hopefully we can get some more creative character designs and fill some of these out. Because some of them don't even, like Feldspar, like I was saying earlier in stream, I've inadvertently created 2 different characters in the process of trying to do a character design for Feldspar. So one of these days, he will actually have, you know, an appearance, and not just a hat. But... yeah, okay, this is starting to get a little more comfortable, a little more familiar. I'm enjoying this. We're gonna have a good time, I think, really learning this one. But until then, we're gonna keep the sketch layer. I'm actually really tempted to... you know what? I'm gonna go a tiny bit longer. Let's keep going on this. What do y'all say? A few extra minutes? A few extra minutes, methinks. Let's have some fun with the selection pen on just this quick sketch. May leave the eyes as is. But let's see, we need skin tones. We're going to need the cloak. I think skin tones are the bottom layer on this one. Want to make sure I've got kind of under there. Just going to kind of scoop these in. And the hair is going to define that edge, so I don't need to care about it. Front edge I do need to actually care about. There we go. Color this all in. Oh yeah, this is going to be, this is really, I cannot put into words how excited I am about this. This is grand. I didn't even realize CSPs was as robust as this. Okay, so we're going to try to get some of them flesh tones back in here. So we want kind of a reddy orange, lighter there. Man, everything I learned about, I needed to know about flesh, everything I know about flesh tones I learned from painting Warhammer 40k characters, which is the dumbest thing ever. But yeah, speaking of 3D modeling, I did get into 40k for a little while making those figurines. I'm going to make a raster here, but I'm also going to make a little separate folder that I'm going to dump just this raster in, which is called, let's see, Doodles Salt Flats. Salt Flats. That wasn't even on purpose. See, I'm telling you, I just live puns. Okay, so we'll get kind of a skin tone in there. Please select that. Let's add another layer in this Doodle Salt Flats. So this one is skin or flesh if you want to sound more ominous about it, but I'm not really necessarily feeling that. Next up, let's sort of get the cloak. Let's see, got a comment here. You know, this cloak, I'm starting to get a few vibes from a cute little comic I've been reading. If anyone's familiar with Our Days in Lumiere, adorable little comic. The artist is currently working on a few other projects, but but that's more just for a webtoons competition, and so this comic is very much still live. Although I follow an awful lot of dead or a long, unending hiatus comics too. I'm never really gone. I stick around. I'm actually going to go for a pure white on the cloak though, because normally I've got the cloak as sort of like a beigey color, like a slightly darker, more of a burlappy thing almost. But because of that comic, I'm actually kind of feeling this white, like an actual white. Which, by the way, if you didn't notice, psych, the background's blue. I have not at all been doing this in a on a flat white background. The blue kind of accentuates the red a little more. It's kind of adds some contrast to these warmer colors, without being overly contrasting. I thought it was kind of a nice little deal. So for anyone who didn't realize that, surprise. Let's see. So we'll call that cloak. We're gonna throw another one on here. Not that we actually need rasters for this. Wow, I can't believe I've come back to the world of rasters. Never thought it would happen. Kind of a reddy pink for this one. Let's see how. Yeah, that's almost kind of a cast-off comic little vibe, but we'll leave it like this for now. You know, I'm actually gonna. I realized I ought to fill in the eyes with the same white. So let's do that real quick. No, let's just start that over. So again, the selection tool is real pixely. I wonder if I can adjust the smoothness of the tool. Maybe it's not a canvas issue, it's just a tool issue. I wonder. Okay. I may have to get a little creative with that. Oh, it is! It's the anti-aliasing of the actual... Yeah, okay, let's move that up a little. Ah, no, evil salt. Actually, just red rim glasses salt. Kind of a fun vibe. It's kind of a cool one. I don't think it's really what I want here, though. Okay. Let's see if we can't smooth that a little. There we go. Okay. I'm thinking we do hair and pupils on the next one. Kind of get these black colors in here. And they don't have to be exactly black. I kind of feel like getting them on this brownish spectrum a little bit. Kind of getting a warm browny gray going on here. It won't be super noticeable one way or the other. Just, you know, but it's kind of a fun deal. Okay, and I'm actually going to go to a slightly finer point. The finer the point, the more like coloring in you have to do, but also the more detail you can actually get. Like, I'm going to keep on tracing this one up. I'm going to clean up this gap a little bit. but we still want the bangs to be defined. Okay, let's see if I can't get this bar to move down a little bit. Maybe if I add some selection down here with this one. There we go. Yeah. Get the tip going in that one. Have to add a little. I'll have to add a little sharpness to that one. And then I'm not too worried about covering. Oh, this is going to be in front of the eyes though, so actually I do need to worry about that a little bit. Okay. Quick tool swap. Bigger on this one. Nope. Too close to it. Gotta really line up that edge. There we go. There's still a tiny floating gap there, but it shouldn't be noticeable. Okay, selection pen. Let's keep on going. Up over the ear. Smooth out this connection a little bit. Just do kind of this one. Yeah, coloring in flats, I'm beginning to see why so many people talk about how long it takes. Even with these techniques, it's still not going to be a quick process. Okay, now I can swap to a bigger one and start filling in the voids, though. Got kind of dramatic-y music for this. I would have to guess it's a Zelda one. Most of the ones I don't recognize on this seem to be from earlier Zelda games. But I can't be sure of that. Let's find out. Obsidian Fieldlands. Pokemon Legends Arceus, or Arceus as I prefer to call it. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that. Okay, so there we've got kind of that going in there. Let's get a hat color. We thinking like a slightly lighter brown, distinct enough from the skin color and from that. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Hat. So now we clear that selection. Oh, and the hat. I actually kind of want the hair to... You know what? We're going to do the hair on top of the hat. Unconventional, but the line of the hair on this, it actually makes more sense. More of the hat is showing up behind it in this section than it matters about showing up in front of it elsewhere. So hat is behind the eyes, behind the hair. Hat is actually kind of a background object. Controversial opinion. Hats, background or foreground objects? Let's go. Okay, and I can really sort of naturally eke out the shape with it like this. Whoop. Obviously can't go too far on that yet. We'll have to get the smaller brush to really get the details in for that. Make sure that we've got the whole edge around the hair and the face covered. Don't want anything peeking through. Any of the super background. Not that the hat isn't background, because I am standing by it. The hat is background. But the sort of baby powder blue background. Okay. Oops. Okay. Right, I can just clean it up. I don't just have to deselect. I can actually just... Oh, this is so cool! Can't get over how nice that is. I'm sure, like, come down the road, I'm gonna be like, ugh, these tools are so slow. But right now, this is so nice. And I'm used to stuff that is just 1,000 times more complicated. And again, I bet Krita has options to do some stuff at least kind of like this. Krita's surprisingly comprehensive on a lot of things. But if I can't find the tools, then they're not actually, you know, helpful. If you can't find the tools, then they might as well not be in there. One of the perks of finding tutorials and guidelines that can walk you through them, but also one of the perks of good interface design. People underestimate how important a good graphic designer is, like really and truly. It's not just for the looks, it's for the usability. So anyone who's too big on function and says we don't need a graphic designer, yeah, the form follows the function, but you do still need the form. Big time. That's a good old Bauhaus quote, but well, the form follows function part. But I'm not gonna get on the Bauhaus rant right now. We've already heard more than enough. Nope, not that one. Hat behind everything. Hat is background. Back hat. Okay. If hat's behind everything, then that means that I can actually, for this one, I can... Yeah. I'm gonna add a little piece to this. because I also want the patch to be on this layer. So I'm going to use a bigger pen for this, at least for the initial blocking in of this. Fortunately, I still need to adhere to the border there. And when you got two things that need to be on the border, it gets complicated because you really need to line them up with pretty good amount of precision. Fortunately, the patch can actually have like a little bit of weight and bump to it. That's perfectly fine. Let's fill that in. Okay. So here we go. We've got kind of a fun little salt sketch. Let's see what it looks like without the sketch layer right now. Fairly recognizable. Not seeing the mouth, not seeing the ear texture. And seeing some awkward gaps in this. That's fine. Also, surprisingly warbly around the edges. We'll have to work on that a little bit. But zoomed out, it's still pretty warbly. No matter. Let's see if I can't do a subfolder in here. I'm going to dump all of these into this, and I'm just going to call it flats. Oh, I've already got this one. Okay. Doodle, salt, flats. This one I'm just going to call doodle, salt, coloring. Because I want to get not just the flats. Now that I don't have a name conflict, I can take care of the second S. Before anyone gets mad about that spare S. We can add another folder, not inside this one. I like that folder icon. Okay. I need to figure out how I'm going to connect these. So I need a new raster layer, and I need to clip it not just to the layer below it, but to... wonder, how can I pick which layer this clips to? Do I need to, like, scoot it down here, clip to layer below, and then scooch it back up? Is it still clipped to the layer below? It sure ain't. It super ain't. Wait, what's this one? Oh, that's the other multiply. Okay. Okay, CSP pick clipping layer target. Pick clipping layer. Let's see, internet. Okay, how to create a clipping layer. Let's see if it has a little more detail. I see clip to layer below. Guess they have to be right around it. Okay, then no point in this double nesting thing. Doodle Salt Flats is coming back to an exterior folder. Doodle Salt Coloring is getting removed. That's for the other one. Okay. Guess this is just how the layer structure is going to work. That's fine. Oh, you can actually build a palette in here? Interesting. I'll have to tweak that a little bit. See how that tool works next time, maybe. But let's add a little bit of multiply to this hat. Multiply. And once again, especially since it's clipped, I'm just going to use the selector tool and kind of go ham wild on it. Want to think about our light source. Where's our light source going to be? Should Salt be staring directly into a light source? That would be like her, but would it actually make for good textures that actually show what's happening, though? Kind of get the hair shadow, you'd kind of get that on the back of the hat. You'd get... You know, I think it would. Okay, so we're gonna pop our light source right where the star is, basically. Yeah, maybe a little further up. I think we're gonna pop it there. Not that that's drawable right now. Ouch. Okay, so then I need to make sure that this is actually clipped to the layer below. Hat molt. Oops. My alarm is telling me to go to bed, but it is a Saturday, and so I shall choose to ignore it brazenly. Okay, so I don't... Okay, I guess with multiply it actually should be okay just doing a black. I want to make sure I don't like just black and white shading. I like having actually variance of the color, but that's sort of the point of multiply to an extent. I think it's still something I'm going to want to tweak in the future. But yeah, let's go ahead and add sort of... I'm gonna get creative because again the line work isn't gonna be in the final thing. So if I don't line up with it exactly, that's okay. Okay, so I want sort of the lights there. the shadow should really sort of pick up like maybe here-ish. And then accentuate along the creases. And then really, like this whole section would be in shadow. Almost all of that. Okay, so then for this other edge, I want it to sort of come down like this. I'm vibing with the lo-fi. I've said vibe so many times in the last. I almost never say the word vibe. I don't even know why it's a thing today. But today's a vibey stream. Today's got vibes of some sort, even if it's just a vibraphone that they're playing these really interesting lo-fi covers on. I'll admit, I don't normally, like, on my free time listen to lo-fi. I like music that's quiet but still has a little more memorability and, like, power to it. Lo-fi is great, but it's almost, it, like, almost lands more in the world of, like, white noise. Okay, yeah, let's temper this a little bit. Kind of wish I didn't deselect that yet. Oh well. But yeah, so this lo-fi is interesting. It's a little cracklier than I might normally choose. I do have some lo-fis that I do enjoy. But also, like, just in general, I'm not quite as lo-fi. Not like lo-fi is not my go-to music necessarily. That said, I do enjoy it. And I also enjoy how copyright-free a lot of it is, because people are either making stuff of games that they don't have the copyright to either, or they're just willing to share it. And either way, I appreciate the heck out of that. Okay, so we've sort of got a little character to this. I kind of want to get, like, just a little bit of that's background. So this, I want, like, a little shadow to give some texture to this patch, too. Give it a little depth. We'll see how well that works. Okay, and if that's going to be the case, if we've got sort of light source up here, then this is going to eventually start, like, whoop, going back to a bigger brush. I like blocking stuff in with these bigger ones, maybe even the 30, but we'll start with this. It's kind of like the head really has got to be blocking a lot of it. And the neck is going to be blocking some too. So it's going to, I think it's going to bias a little more towards the down, if nothing else because of foreshortening, like that side's further away from us. Maybe not quite that much towards it. We'll see. Let's try filling it. Let's see how this ends up looking. That actually, you know, it probably should continue at the end. I actually kind of like how this looks though. I am going to get just like a little bit around this rim where it first connects with the head too. Just to show that there's kind of a little bit of a bend to it. Probably should. Actually, yeah, let me... no, not like that. Let me taper this one a little bit, because around that edge, we should be seeing, like, actual brim and not this. So I'm going to erase that bit of it. There we go, there we go. Maybe let's clean this up a little bit, too. Okay. We'll start with that. We'll hit save again, because I do like me some saving. And we'll think about the fact that the shadows on this layer are way too harsh. Still. So let's, like, even maneuver them up, and let's see if we can't just do some quick fills to clean that up a little bit. Ah, no. Maybe even, like... Because again, with Multiply, you can get pretty light colors, and they're still adding on, so it's still darker. Yeah, I kind of like this a little better, honestly. If we're going to do a black multiply or even something close to it, that's going to be on this hair level. But it looks like we've actually got skin up next for another molt layer. Nope, we want to clip this to below. Skin, molt. I'm going to have to figure out my layer organization a little bit. This is all a little funky to me compared to what I'm used to. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to get back to our Selecty tool. And let's really, you know, I'm not going to try to go crazy on face contours. A, this is a really cartoony face. So that would be kind of a silly way to use time. And B, like, I don't know, I'm just like a little rusty with it. But we can at least sort of catch like the area where the eye sits. Maybe even like define the nose a little more using that. There we go. That's kind of fun. I want to get this ear bit, and I definitely want to get, like, back of the neck, obviously, and all that. We can get like a little bit of the chin, but I'm gonna use a smaller pen for it because I always go way too overzealous on this at first. Yeah, let me even go down to like a 6 or something on this. Clear that selection because it's gotta kind of come to a point pretty quick around there, and then we'll fill this in. We'll catch any gaps hopefully. Let's try that. Yeah, that's better. I want to get the area behind the ear. I've got a little too much shading here, maybe. Salt's looking more like a raccoon. Get that. That's going to be in the shade there. Just a little bit. Same sort of deal. And then the hair shading, of course. Because the hair's got a shadow it casts too. Inner ear. I'm gonna try just doing this one like this first. We're gonna see how that goes. That's... it's a little shaky. A little shaky. Let me see if I can't get a little more into the point and a little more confident down below. Yeah, we'll start with that. That's a little better. There's part of me that wants to add a line like this, but I think that that's gonna look really awkward compared to... Yeah. What I can do is maybe curve this shadow up a little more, make it look like the ear is sort of connecting in. Getting kind of an elven point to it almost at this point, but that's maybe fine. We'll see. I think we've gone a little too far on that one. I can leave like a little bump. That's better. That's better. Oh, I undid it. It was a good one. Here's my reflexes. Yeah, that's actually better. Even scoot it up a little more. Yeah, there we go. That looks more natural. And then I think we're going to want a more potent molt for the mouth. I'm not going to do actual like mouth detailing on this one. And it's just gonna look jarring. So let's leave it as is. I'm gonna clean up a little bit of our tanuki-ness here. There we go. Oops. Save that. Okay. I don't want to add shadow on the eyes because I want them to be intentionally cartoony. Do they still like read okay? Maybe I want to add a little shadow on the eyes. Ooh, that's risky. That's gonna be risky. Cloak and eyes. Cloak I definitely want shadow on. I'm gonna go for more of the grays. I'm gonna actually tip this over into a bluey section too. It's not gonna be that important, but with the white, I find the blues kind of like a little bit cleaner. It's not gonna be noticeable on this. Let's go back to our selector. Two things that I want to do are kind of just something like that. Oops, not directly on the layer. Somebody please stop me before I ever do that again. That would have been a mistake. Big mistake. Multiply. This one is a multiply, right? Multiply. Oh, okay. So I was way too dark on that. We'll leave that normal for now. That should have been multiply. I just happened to get a color that was close. So that was that. Okay, jeepers. It's getting a little bit late here. I'm making some silly mistakes, but that's part of the fun. I don't like the idea of molting eyes. A molting cloak, more reasonable. This is too dark still. We need this to be close to white for this to even slightly have a shot at working. Because we really don't want people to even notice that there's shading here on this one. Like, really and truly, we don't want anyone to even see this. So I want it to be super faint. Super faint. Just enough to hint at the edge of eyes. Okay, that's getting closer. And then for this one, what we really want, light source is here. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. I really just want to sort of define this edge a little bit. I like sort of bring that one in, fill it. My fill is the same color as the background. Oh no. We can get like a little bit right around the neck where it meets. Add some depth there. On this one, we're actually going to be having this sort of more towards the top of it. Should have used a bigger brush for this. Or a bigger selecty brush. Gonna have to look in selecty brush options too. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff I can do with that. And see, it's shadows like this that really start bringing these things to life. You like once you get to the color, you just sort of like zoop like a little edge there. And boom, like this, that's starting to look like legit. Actually, I'm gonna want like a small brush again for this little bit, because I want it to sort of look like they kind of overfold and overlap on each other a little bit. Which I think I'm gonna want to continue this up a little bit too. There we go. Now it sort of looks like it's doing a little bit of twistiness there. Let me bring this one down as far as the gem even. I'm not sure I want to add a shadow for the gem. Let's see if that looks decent. I think it adds something, but I think I'm going to make it like a little smaller. Again, feel free to pitch in any thoughts. No pressure, obviously. I know this is a small stream. No one wants to jump in and accidentally like be the only voice, and then suddenly the person talking is talking to you, and it's kind of awkward when you're just trying to watch. Trust me, I'd say I've been there. Maybe no one else is there. Maybe I'm just a little awkward about being a viewer. But like, no pressure to jump in. Feel free to do as much or as little as you want. I still need to be doing the selection pen for this, don't I? Just have to select. And then I need to be on the eraser instead of the brush. Keep confusing myself. Okay, so selecty pen again. Getting our selector on. And I want to smooth this out because this needs to taper out a lot more. Not that though. No. There we go. And you know, I don't even necessarily have to have stuff selected for this. I can just sort of zoop. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. And so yeah, you can see these shadows like, and when you start to add highlights too, instead of multiply, there's another one. It may just be light on this. I don't know what, lighten, yeah, lighten. Maybe screen. Every program does them a little differently. But like, it adds a lot. It really does. Okay, on skin, I am gonna be nitpicky about the face a little bit. I'm gonna go for a slightly larger select. I'm gonna try to. You can sort of see me lining up as I just try to like, because you want a clean sweep on that. Because otherwise you end up with like kind of awkward connections and stuff. But as it is, when I can sort of like just, it's like merging lanes. So you just sort of merge in at the curve and it works. I like this song, whatever this is. What's this one? Wi-Fi waiting room for Mario Kart Wii. Oh, that's cute. That's a fun one. Okay. Man, I remember playing that back in the day. Okay, so the last thing is the hair and pupils. I'm not putting darkness on the pupils, frankly, unless they end up looking really bad without this, but I think they look okay. I think it would add kind of some weirdness if we gave it darkness, but the hair we can definitely do. So, first off, new layer. Make it multiply, attach it to this thing. Hair slash pup, molt. And I do stand by that spelling pup and not pup. Just think that pup is more fun to say, frankly. There's nothing else. There's not anything else to it. It's just more fun. Okay, so for this hair, we're going to want a smaller one, like 6 or 7 probably, because I'm trying to get some actually nitpicky lines in here. Okay, so I want this to look like it's sort of curving down away from the light. But I don't want that first initial awkward, so I'm just going to get a fresh start. The curved top on that's going to be a little bit awkward. Oh, and we want to go back to warm colors, really dark colors, though. Okay, yeah, let's see. Let's see if we can't get, like, I think a lot of this one is going to be like that. I'm going to try to get, like, oop, nope, started too close. I want to sort of zoom in, doing that lane merge again to line up with that lower curve and then sort of poke up. Maybe even hint that this, like, that this is going up a little further. And again, I'm going to smooth out some of these rounded edges in a bit. The merge in for this one. And this one I even want to sort of... no, that one got out of hand. Oh well. Maybe we can salvage the merge. We'll see. It's been a while since I've really done hair texturing like this. I use being out of practice as an excuse, but I was never like that in practice either. Like, as I say from the start, I am still for the most part learning these things. We're going to shade most of this and actually just do like some erasing to get some highlights. I think that's going to be a better approach for everything beyond a certain point back here away from the light source. I want to get a little bit underneath for the hat rim. Not to be confused with the Pokemon hatch rim. Yeah, see, that already is looking a little better. I'm going to use a really fine point to sort of sharpen this. Nope, that wasn't a good select. I should really zoom in. There's no reason to be doing this far out. For these little, like, sharpness details, anyway. There, see, that looks a little sharper. This I'm actually going to bring all the way in. I'm going to sort of add, like, a little bit of shading into this, just like some scribbly almost. I want to add it adds a little more texture, breaks it up a little bit. As much as I kind of enjoy, like, the funky, like, anime blocky style, it's not really what we're going for here. And it's obviously got some influences on it. This one's a little more random than this one. It worked. This is actually better. Let's see if we can't just add like a little element of chaos in there. There we go. Okay. Yeah, you want to sort of see like stray hairs and stuff. And how visible this will be on the end, I haven't the faintest idea. But I think it will add a little texture that's kind of needed. Catch being is, will the texture be jarring compared to the rest of this mostly not that textury art? We'll find out. We'll find out. We'll do a little bit of this. We'll zoom out. We'll see how it looks. Because obviously I haven't got that much detail even going into the hair in some of these spots. Kind of fill in just a little bit of an edge there. Let's go back. Yeah, I think that kind of works. It draws the attention where I want it to. It does make me want to add some wrinkles with this shadow, though. I may go back and sharpen some of this and get the... Ooh, the patch! I almost forgot the patch. I don't know how much shadow the patch really needs. Maybe like just a little bit along this edge. I'm going to stick to the warbly on this one. I think it's the right sort of look. I wonder if I could sort of... I kind of like the kind of awkward, like, edge of this one. Like, not necessarily pixely, but kind of these, like, slow waves, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. I wonder if there's a way to get that with, like, a larger brush, because that's kind of a neat effect. I mean, the selecty, like, the rolling light on it kind of does some cool things, too. I want to smooth this out. I want it to look like the patch is kind of billowed up a little bit. Although, really, if I want that to be the case... Hi, Spamton. By the way, if you haven't played Deltarune yet, it's fun. Like, I'm not here to go preach it and overhype everything, but it's a fun little game. And it's got the artist Temmie Chang's work in it, and Temmie is really, really good. I enjoy her live streams. I also enjoy her art. It's great. I'll stick with that. We'll see what texture that ends up looking like at the end. I'm not really sure. Okay, and then I'm gonna sort of, instead of going to fill, we're gonna be adding just some highlights in here. Add like just a little bit here. Add sort of like that, and we're just gonna erase the whole dang thing. I want big eraser, bold eraser. That's so big, it's bigger than my screen right now. Let's go to something we can see. Okay. And so now we've got like a little bit of character there. I'm gonna sort of get like a little more on this one too. Oop. And then again, we don't want too much on these further back ones because they're even further from the light, but I kind of want like a little bit. Yeah, but darn it, that was like the perfect select too. Oh well. Actually, it missed some other stuff. That was the pitchiest piano deal I've heard maybe in my life. Oh my word. This music, it's so hit or miss. Some of it's really good, some of it's not. Oh well. I do appreciate them doing it though. Like, as much as I've enjoyed trying to do music, I have not succeeded at actually making any songs. So I respect the challenge and the effort that they've put into all this. Then I'm gonna, let's see, I think one last one on this and then I'll stop sort of futzing about with it. I want to add like a little bit of curvature, but also like a little bit of that, a little bit of texture. Yeah. Let's go back to full size, see if any of that's even visible. Yeah, see, that adds just a little bit of fun to it. Okay, I'm still not sure about the patch, honestly. Patch almost kind of needs to be its own color, really. I'm gonna leave it for now and not mess with it too much. What I am gonna do is mess with the hat molt. So, the challenge with this is I can't get the original molt color because it's all just the relative one. This is what I get for not keeping a palette. See, like I was saying earlier, I should have done and didn't. This is why. Because now if I fill that, it's going to be way darker. So I may just have to get something kind of close. I'm going to go ahead and go for a slightly bigger brush, too, at this point. Because I'm trying to do some testing. We close with that? We are close enough with that. Yeah, okay. Then I'm just going to, I'm going to, like, sharpen these. I'm going to go in with the 4. And like really sort of sharpen this edge up a little bit. Keep accidentally clicking a pen button. You want the outlines to make sense with the shadows. That's why I don't have to bring it all the way up here, but I think it actually makes like a little more sense if it does continue all that way. It doesn't have to though. Let's add like a little more texture to this. I really want this to look... I'm gonna need to figure out how to add some like intermediate shading to this, because right now we've just got like a light and a shadow color. And that's not really, you know, there's better ways to do this stuff. And given that this is supposed to have some scorch marks around this part of the hat, there is a story behind that. Salt has met my player... Please be undoable. Okay. Always fun when the program gives you a one of those little heart stoppers. Ay. Okay, I kind of want that to sort of show a few creases, not just the one. Kind of an organic deal going on here. Really curve this out a little more. Bring it to a point in a few spots even. I'm overthinking this now, and I'm not entirely sure I even know what I'm talking about. But we'll see. This is... I may have gone too far in the shade. Maybe I don't bring it all the way up, because you want the hat to sort of obscure part of the part that would be in shadow. So maybe we do that. do want to smooth that one a little bit. Even if it looks more like a crease without being smoothed, it's not great. And really, I just want this one to be kind of wavier. Like, it doesn't need to be wrinkly necessarily, it's just kind of a little bit warped. It's not a smooth edge. Yeah, see, you're starting to get some... That's more what I want with this one, too. I really ought to... I'm going to clear out a lot of this. We'll see if it's still, like, definable without it. And if it's not, we'll go back. But yeah, I think you can still, even without the sketch, you can still... Yeah, you can immediately tell that there's, like, hat brim there. And then I'm going to sort of warpy this up a little bit, too. With a 6, I think. Just not too sharp on the warps. So, yeah, see, like, some of those were a little sharp. Really ought to just use a pen for stuff like that, but, you know. No point doing 3 clicks when you can do 1. But right now, it's nice being on the same tool. Oops, I don't know what I did there. Yeah, I think maybe... Yeah, that's getting more like it. And then I think we're going to want to do like a selectee here. And just erase that bit, because we really do want it to look like it's more... The shadow should be mostly along sort of this century-ish bit. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how that's looking now. Do want to do a little more. Not with this, I kind of like the idea that there's kind of a sharp bit there, but just this little bit ought to be warpy too. Yeah, very professional artist. The industry term is warpy. Yes, very warpy. Woo, 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 woo. Professional art term. Wee 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 woo. Yeah. Okay. So now we're at the point where when we zoom out, and again, if we use lighten, I may do just a tiny bit to add a highlight to the hat, because this area is really open and could actually like kind of benefit from one. So hat molt, and then I promise I'll stop. We're almost 45 minutes over what I planned. Cheapers. Oh well. Hat glow. I'm calling it glow. It's not the right word for it. Clip to the layer below, but this one's going to be a lighten. And once again, I'm just going to sort of select an area. In this case, I'm just going to I'm going to go for a bigger brush on this. There's another one of those ones where like the sweeping brush strokes are going to be like way nicer. Because I want it to kind of taper, and if you want taper, you really want these sweeping strokes, like a little sharp around the edge, and then kind of bigger section, and then back to being sharp. Now that's maybe too much lightening. I don't want the accent to take away from the face or to look too much like the face. And it is clipped to the hat layer, right? Because that just sort of... Okay, well, we'll do less. Where'd my fill tool? There we go. Maybe instead of that one, we do this one. Yeah, that's more what I'm thinking. It's not quite got the curvature right. I need to curve it a little more here, and probably a little more on the other side, but that one's more believable because it could just be hidden behind a fold, whereas this one I definitely need to like actually proper curve it. I don't want... Well, do I want it to line right up with that edge? I probably don't, but it's easier if it does. Question is, does it still look natural? Not really. Okay, not really. Doop-a-doo. Then that's time for small brush. Small brush. Not to be confused with Guybrush from whatever those games were. Pirate Island? I'm gonna make someone mad. It's definitely not called Pirate Island, but I don't remember what they're called. They were a little before my time. Yeah, okay, so it's a little smoother, it's just kind of a nice little highlight, and if we can get this sort of thing going, like, along the rest of the hat, too, it'll add a little more character to it, add a little more believability with some of the lighting. It'd be good to do... We probably don't need to do it with the hair. We've actually got enough detail there that it's not too worrying. And I don't want to mess with it too much on the hat either. Patch, it would make some amount of sense. Cloak, it wouldn't, because it's already such a bright white. The highlights wouldn't really do anything. But yeah, so that's sort of, you know, we can pull this away, and this is still clearly, like, it very much reads as salt. It's a little pixely. I need to, wish I'd figured out the smoothing on the brush selector a little sooner. But it looks, you know, like this is recognizable. I could zoom that out. It's kind of cartoony. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. What I may do, maybe we use that one as sort of the our icon for Art Fight. I think that might be a good. It needs to be 100 by 100 pixels, so it may compress down a little bit, but it's, you know, kind of a fun thing. It's a good style for it. Yeah, okay, this is, you know, this has actually been a big burst of inspiration to actually do some more art. This has been fun. So I'm gonna file, let's see if we can't export. I don't know if we want a single layer. Save duplicate? No. Maybe if I just export salt doodle flats. Can I do that? Can I export as PNG the Art Fight character sheet? I'm just gonna throw that on my desktop. Y'all are gonna get to see my desktop. That's gonna be exciting, isn't it? Can I scale ratio? Specify output size. Oh crud, it's getting the whole layer. Okay. I won't mess with that. I'm just gonna hit OK. I'm going to. Okay, so it did actually get the whole deal, and also these ones. That's fine. Okay, we'll save this, and then we're gonna check out my actual desktop. Real exciting, I know. If you don't recognize this, I've been playing too much Elden Ring lately. Okay, now this is definitely not the right way to do this, but it is a way to do this, and it's what I'm going to do. Okay, that wasn't the way to do it. Howsy does I? Oh, there we go. Cropping's gonna be under edit image. Crop icon, aspect ratio, we want square. Oh, right, you drag the actual drawing behind it, which is still weird to me. Thank you, Microsoft, for adding the photo media engine. I'm not sure why I didn't have that from the start, Microsoft. I feel like that should be a default thingamabob, but whatever. Okay, and I'm okay with cutting out a little bit of this. The point is centering it on this. Let's see, I want to save this just to the original. I don't need that other version. And now we need to... Let's see about that resize option. Define custom dimensions. Oh, jeepers. Just let me use the keyboard, please. Sure. Art Fight. What am I gonna call this? What are we gonna call this one? Art Fight. This might not be a bad way to do emotes once the time comes for that. But Art Fight icon. 100 pics. And let's see if that looks... It was supposed to be here. Where did it put that? Oh, dagnabbit, where did I put that? Art, there we go. And then if we zoom in on it, it's blurry as all get out. But that's, you know, what we expected. Okay. Get off my OneDrive. Get out of my drive. Get onto my desktop. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and head on out. But I'm going to post this icon to Art Fight. Here's how Art Fight's looking right now. Who's in the lead right now? 1861 versus 1863. Okay, Wither's still got a slight lead. I am on Team Bloom, for anyone who cares. And again, there's a million different types of art on here. They do have some safety standards. It should be safe for work, safe for kids, as long as you keep the default filters on, all that jazz. I don't ever want to recommend anything that's not safe for, you know, this is a family-friendly fun channel. We're not here to cause chaos. Um, but I will log in. I will set this as my icon. We'll have a little fun with that. And we will go from there. Well, it has been a fun time. Appreciate all of y'all coming out. But I think I'm probably going to wrap it up for the night here in just a minute. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to do rating on this yet. Like I said, day 4 of streaming, still figuring out the quirks. Bear with me, we'll get it there. But we will do that. We will get that figured out. And if anyone has any raid suggestions, I'm happy to consider them. I do want to like scope out the channels a little bit before I raid them, because you never know. Twitch has a lot of different personalities. I don't want to raid and send us all somewhere that wouldn't be comfortable. You know, we don't want to do that. So with that, I am gonna head on out. It has been a blast. See y'all next time. Or not, you know, no pressure. Come back if you want. You don't have to. I'll be here. Bye.